as we head into the Bahrain Grand Prix, the news that's coming out from the paddock once again tails around the issues that Charles Leclerc came up with in the previous round in terms of the brand deals really hurting driver careers and how he's backing a protest against all of this. This comes after Vodafone decided to go ahead and bring Reese from Ferrari over to McLaren. This meant that obviously McLaren had Ricciardo and Leclerc as their driver lineup, and they had to get rid of one of their drivers, in the end getting rid of Charles Leclerc, who has moved to Audi. This also happened to Tom as well, as Monster had a brand deal with Sam, who is currently at Jaguar. However, Monster didn't want to be a part of the team whilst Tom was there. Jaguar then took the decision to ditch Tom from their team in order to allow the brand deal to take place to get the extra finances. Monster and Vodafone have both shut down the claims that their companies are ruining F1 careers, and they believe Leclerc needs to man up and accept that business is business. And at the end of the day, Formula 1, yes, is a very, very difficult sport, but it's also a business, and if the teams don't get the money and the finances, then they'll go out of business. It's as simple as that. Now, interestingly enough, Leclerc has been doing a lot of work to try and get Tom to back him in his case. Of course, Tom being the primary example of another driver in the same season that went ahead and suffered the same fate as Leclerc. But interestingly enough, Tom is staying relatively quiet on the matter. Leclerc still doing his best to convince Tom to go and back him and try and launch a protest against these type of brand deals. But what's also very interesting is that Sam, who is somebody that has actually been on the beneficial side of these brand deals, remains really, really quiet. Both Tom and Sam do. This is quite interesting. The man that we expected to start speaking up would be Tom, considering he's been put in this situation alongside Leclerc. But the fact that Sam is not wanting to comment on the entire matter and is refusing to even think about defending his brand deal with Monster is quite an interesting scenario. This might play out a little bit later on, but the fact that the two are remaining quiet for now really doesn't help the case, and it really isn't allowing it to spread further than maybe what it should do. Heading into the race itself then, it was Audi that once again set the pace in Bahrain as they look to try and put the issues of China behind them. Despite this though, Jaguar and McLaren are much closer to Audi, unlike in China, where in the Chinese Grand Prix, Audi had a good 3/4 tenths in their back pocket. Here in Bahrain, it's only a tenth of a second, if that, so it's very, very close at the front of the field. Renault are confident that they can get into the mix for points. They seem to have a very good car around Bahrain, and it seems to just suit the track absolutely lovely, and it's something that they're looking to capitalise on. Carlos Sainz continues to have lots of issues with the underperforming Ferrari. Ferrari, however, when asked about this in terms of Sainz's performances, said that they will be extremely patient with the Spaniards as they know that the car is not up to a good standard, and at the moment it's just working so much better for Tom, but they expect Sainz to really get onto the front foot when the upgrades start arriving. And the Mercedes-Benz are suffering once again with more reliability issues as Lewis Hamilton suffered a gearbox problem during FP1. Luckily, it was a practice gearbox, meaning that he shouldn't have to take a penalty for it, but it's more concern for the team itself. Will they have the reliability issues once again in the race though? Well, it's time to find out. It's time for the Bahrain Grand Prix. Yo, what's going on guys? It is Foxydude here. Welcome back to a brand new episode of the F1 Journey for you guys today here on the channel. We are back with round number 3 of the season here for the Bahrain Grand Prix, which has been the season opener for quite a few events in the F1 Journey calendar, but not today. But as you can see, then we're coming out then for our qualifying lap as we ride on board with ourselves here, and obviously we've got Mercedes in front. Now, if you end up enjoying today's video, feel free to drop it a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here as well. If you forgot that you have to subscribe to my channel, don't worry, just look at the center of my halo, it's reminding you. But as we now go into our first lap here now, going towards the last corner here, going a little bit early actually on turn-in, but as we now go down the start-finish straight here, opening up the DRS, it's going to be a 1 minute 17.1 there. We know we can go a little bit faster than that, and obviously that's only our banker lap, so we've definitely got more time left in the tank. As you can see then, onto our final qualifying lap now here. We had a lot of time, I thought, in the tank, but clearly not as much as I expected. As we now go towards the last corner here, though, we actually brake a lot later this time, get a nice exit. We're going to improve by 700ths of a second. We're currently in P10 on the grid. Where's this lap going to put us? I'm not actually sure. I think it's P10. Here we go then, it is round 3 of the Formula 1 season. We are here for the Bahrain Grand Prix, the duel in the desert, an absolute classic on the Formula 1 calendar. And we are ready to get the race underway in the night sky. And of course, being in the desert, you basically just don't get any rain. So yeah, it is a dry race for us here today. The 3.362 mile circuit provides the cars with plenty of areas to overtake, with probably the best complex of corners being in towards the first sector, as you're able to really get the run down towards turn 1s, 2 and 3, and if you can't make it stick there, you can still get the run up in towards turn 4. It's the soft, medium and the hard compound tyres, but like China, Bahrain is a circuit where you can get away with doing a 1-stop versus the 2-stop, so we could see a mixed up grid, which may make things interesting as we go into the latter stages of each of our stints. But from the Chinese Grand Prix, it's Audi that keep up their momentum, as we'll see in a second. It's another front row lockout for them. This time Leclerc on pole, Russell lines up alongside him. It's Lando Norris in P3 with Lewis Hamilton alongside him in 4th place. Lining up next is Sam, alongside of him is Reese in P6 for the first of the McLarens. Sebastian Vettel lines up P7 with Ricciardo in P8. It's not been a great qualifying for McLaren. Bottas P9 keeping up his hot streak in the Renault with myself, Tom, in P10. Pierre Gasly is in P11 ahead of Nick de Vries in P12. That is followed by Sergio Perez in P13 with Max Verstappen lining up 14th on the grid. Carlos Sainz is 15th ahead of Noah James in 16th place for the first of the Fords. Then it's Nico Hülkenberg and Esteban Ocon lining up next to each other, and then on the back row of the grid it is Pascal Wehrlein and Mason Wood that rounds off the 20 drivers here for this Bahrain Grand Prix. Having a look then at the race itself, we're going to be doing a 2-stop race, but we're going to be doing it a little bit differently. We're going to be doing soft to the mediums to then back to the softs again to try and give us the advantage at the end of the race. But we've got 5 red lights, and it is now going to be lights out, and away we go for the Bahrain Grand Prix. It's been a good start from us, but it's been a shocking start for one of the McLarens of Reese here, who as we now go towards the first corner, going to go down the inside to get very close to the Mercedes there of Lewis Hamilton, I think that was, but we managed to make our way through unscathed, and we go around the outside, and we're up into P6 now in the Bahrain Grand Prix, so gaining 4 places off the start there. And now we've got one of the Renaults in front of us, so Bottas has had an absolutely flying start as well. Of course, myself and Bottas were P9 and 10, and now we're up into 5th and 6th, so a great start from the pair of us here now, as we've got both of I think it's actually one of the Audis is leading the race, then we've got the 2 Jaguar cars, and then I think it's Lewis Hamilton, and then Bottas and myself, so one of the Audi cars has had an absolute shocker of a start, so we'll have to find out who that is very soon. But for now, we're off to a good start. We're underway, and now we're just trying to settle ourselves in a little bit, as we've got one of the McLarens behind us who has got much better straight line speed. So as long as we can keep them at bay in the corners, we should be alright down on the straights. But of course, once DRS is enabled, then we're in a whole world of pain, because there's 3 DRS zones around here. It's very hard to find an overtaking spot here, but we've got a lot more ERS, it seems, than Bottas in front of us. So now as we go in towards the last corner, we're going to set ourselves up here, getting a little bit wider on the curb, and now we're going to enable our ERS, and clearly here you can see that we saved up, crucially, a little bit more of our battery. So now as we go towards the outside line here of Valtteri Bottas, now you can see he's using his ERS, but I'm able to turn mine off, brake a little bit later down in towards turn 1, and we get the move done on Valtteri Bottas, and we're up into 5th place now in the Bahrain Grand Prix here. We have to use a little bit of ERS on the exit though, just to cover off Bottas there, but we get through, and we're absolutely fine there. As I think one of the McLarens there has actually come into the pits then, so problems for one of the McLarens. But let's have a look at the start then. So if we get the lights going now underway, you can see here that Russell got an absolute shocker. He bogs down off the line, as well as the other McLaren, and straight away then we're trying to tussle for position here, as Lando Norris now makes his way up into 2nd place there. Had a look at Leclerc in towards the first corner, and then it gets a little bit chaotic down in towards this first corner, and that might be where the contact and damage has come from there. You just saw that there's the front wing going off then, so it's really kicking off in the background there. This is on board now with George Russell, so look at this start. This was absolutely shocking. He just did not get a launch at all, and away goes the 2 Jaguars and the Mercedes. It wasn't necessarily too bad, but all of a sudden he's going to get pinched in by myself, by the Renault, by the McLaren. It really hasn't worked out nicely for him, and that's where it's happened. He's lost the rear end, making contact with my car, and he's gone and hit the McLaren there of Daniel Ricciardo. This is on board with Reese now, so Reese then again also didn't get a good start either. He got jumped by quite a few cars at this point. I think he got jumped by 3 cars there, and he's going to get overtaken by the Fords, who, oh, there's a little bit of an issue there. So that is Pierre Gasly. So Gasly then losing his front wing end plate in all of this. So Reese then manages to sneak his way through and try and avoid all the carnage and the chaos there. And it's Lewis Hamilton was the other Mercedes in that. I thought Vettel was the Mercedes there. It wasn't. It was Hamilton, but Reese eventually gets around the outside of Lewis Hamilton there, and he can carry on his way now. But we're back onto the live feed here, and as you can see, I'm now still in P5 there, being hunted by Bottas. Meanwhile, Reese is going to overtake here Pierre Gasly, who in fairness is not doing a terrible job with the damage on his front wing, but unfortunately, it is definitely costing him some time, and he drops further down the order. But back at the front of the race, though, Charles Leclerc is building a gap out front, and championship leader Lando Norris is ahead of his championship rival Sam, who's now going to go to the inside line here as he accelerates now down the start-finish straight in towards the first corner. Sam now, no DRS enabled yet, so we're only on lap 2 of this Grand Prix, and Sam is now up into 2nd place in the Bahrain Grand Prix, and now it's up to see if he can get after that Audi of Charles Leclerc, who's pulling away in the distance. Meanwhile, here comes Sebastian Vettel, for a little bit of a run here, as the DRS was just enabled then on that straight, but it didn't actually avert to anything. But further back now, this is the battle for P7 between Reese and George Russell in the 2nd Audi car, and as you can see here, Reese has got the DRS. Bottas still holding on nicely to the back of my car. You can just see up ahead then as Reese now goes in towards turn 1, but it doesn't quite work out for him. He has to sit back and wait a little bit longer for his opportunity to arise. And then back at the front of the field once again, Norris this time is going to come back at Sam now, after Sam did initially get away from him, but Norris now has got DRS, so he should technically have a little bit more of an advantage here, but annoyingly for Norris, it's not enough. He's actually going to have to sit and wait behind for a little bit longer, as there we go now, Reese does get in front of George Russell, so he does make the move stick on the Audi man, and he is now up into 7th place and can try and hunt me down as the 2 Ford cars here going for a little bit of a scrap here. Gasly still racing on those medium compound tyres despite the damage, which is a little bit of a surprise actually. I thought he would have pitted and got rid of those medium compound tyres, put on a fresh front wing, but that's clearly not something that he wants to do. So his teammate Noah James now is going to get the run down in towards the first corner. In fact, Gasly I think is using a bit more engine modes here, which is a little bit of a surprise considering that they're teammates, and one of them has got a damaged front wing, and you can actually still see the front wing end plate there, but Noah actually ends up just leaving Gasly out to dry there, so that's a little bit of a shame there for him. Lap 6 of the Grand Prix, and you can see here that we've got Valtteri Bottas very close to accompanying now onto the back of us here. We're still keeping intact almost with the Mercedes and the 2 Jaguars, but the issue that we've got is they're in a DRS train. I'm not in a DRS train, so we're struggling a little bit to keep up here. Here comes Valtteri Bottas now to try and reclaim that 5th place that we stole from him, but luckily for us, we just had enough on a straight line to hold off against the Renault car. And now as we go up towards turn 4 here, this is another spot where Bottas could go for it, but we have enough on the exit there to really help us. We've got a yellow flag now in the middle sector. That's one of the Renault cars, and it's going to bring out another safety car. So once again, we've got a safety car in this Grand Prix, and it is for Esteban Ocon, the other Renault driver, who was a long way down the order actually. But unfortunately for him, his race is run and done. He is not going to be going anywhere anytime soon. That engine has gone kaput. As for us though, we're going to take full advantage of the safety car, as is everyone, and we're going to box now and get our medium compound tyres on. And once again, the safety car has actually really helped us, because we're pitting for the medium compound tyres. The other drivers should, actually no, Vettel then stopped for medium, so that's going to be interesting. The other drivers will have to try and go onto a set of the soft tyres. Actually, looking in behind then, that is Charles Leclerc that's come out of the pits behind us. So Leclerc has been held up horribly in the pits now. So Charles Leclerc, our race leader, has now dropped into what should be a net P4, because Lando Norris had to stack for Jaguar, as of course Sam got in front of him. Leclerc though, what happened in Audi's pit stop, because he's now behind us in this race. So we've got a net P3 actually in this Grand Prix. That's Vettel in front of us. Then we've got Sam, who's somewhere in the midst of the traffic in front, who's actually technically a net P1 here. So we're somehow now all of us in the podium places in terms of a net position. We've still got cars to overtake and attack, and that's what we're going to do right now. So let's get the race back underway then. As you can see now, we're going to go and have a look at Vettel down the inside in towards turn 1. We do just that here. I had a little look at Verstappen as well, but unfortunately I had to clip the curb there, but we swoop around the outside of Verstappen, and we're now up once again in the places. Next up we've got Mason Wood to attack, and then it is Sam in the Jaguar car. So we are technically, yeah, in a net P2 now, as Leclerc has somehow lost a whole bunch of time in the pit stops as we now carry our way through the middle sector now and hunt down Mason Wood in the Red Bull. There he is, and we want to get past him as soon as we possibly can. So let's try and do that here as we now make our way through in towards this difficult corner, and we get through past Mason Wood. A little bit of contact on exit, but it's absolutely fine. We can get away with that. Now Mason Wood has to deal with his teammate Verstappen, trying to make a run at him as we now go through in towards the end of the middle sector here. Sam gets around the outside of one of the 4 cars. That puts them off quite heavily here, so we're going to rich mix and overtake and go past this 4 car of Pierre Gasly. It is now. Gasly still going in this race and still has a damaged front wing. Why have Ford not stopped him under the safety car just to change the front wing? Yes, he would have been at the back, but at least he would have had a fresh front wing and won't be losing time hand over fist. His race is pretty much running down. There's a little bit further back there. That's Leclerc getting a bit out of shape in the last corner versus Mason Woods. He's trying to make up for lost ground in the pit stops here as he gets past Mason now in the start-finish race here. We've got another good 3-wide moment here as Vettel is under pressure from Reese. Reese goes down the inside of, I think he's just gone down the inside of 3 cars there. He has done. Reese then overtakes Sebastian Vettel and Verstappen and Mason Woods all in one corner. That is a trademark dive bomb if I've ever seen one before, as Mason Wood now fends off against Verstappen. Max tries to go around the outside of turn 4. He's also got Vettel and also Lando Norris right behind him as Verstappen now in towards the middle sector here. Is he going to hold on against Mason Wood? No, because Wood's going to come back in him now in towards the end of this, or the start of the middle sector now, as they go now towards the tricky hairpin corner. These difficult left-handers. Verstappen should be in front. Verstappen is in front of Mason Wood. Further up the field, though, we've got Sam, who is trying to make his way up the order, but annoyingly for him, he's got Noah James and one of the Porsche cars in front of him. It's currently a Porsche 1-2 in this Grand Prix. I think it's Nico Holt, no, it's Pascal Wehrlein that they're trying to attack here, as, I take that back, there's an Aston Martin in front of it, never mind. But you can see here, Sam was trying to have a look then, overtaking Noah James, but Noah actually got a better run and tried to attack Hulkenberg, it is then. So Sam then, unfortunately, losing himself some time, and that is allowing me to close right up to the back of him now. So once again, we're putting the pressure on here as Sam really needs to get past these two, but annoyingly for him, they're just scrapping away as Noah now tries to get a run here in towards the last corner. But this has actually set us up perfectly for Sam's perspective, because he can now get a double slipstream here and just breeze past. That's exactly what he's going to do. Flies past the pair of them now. We've got DRS on it as well, so let's see if we can try and make any moves. We might just go for it here. Try and do a double overtake in towards turn 1. That's exactly what we've done down the inside of Hulkenberg, and we're up now into, I think this is 3rd place. It is, and it's the Aston Martin then out front. I'm not sure what Aston Martin it is, but they are leading the Grand Prix as we look back now at the two scrapping away here. Leclerc now is trying to get past Noah James. He's going to go around the outside of the last corner. So this is a very bold move from Charles Leclerc, but he's going to make it stick on Noah James, and that's a very nice overtake there. He'll now use the DRS to capitalize on that and get out to Hulkenberg, while Reese is going to try and overtake Noah. He might even have a go at Hulkenberg. He is going to have a go at Hulkenberg in towards turn 1. Me and Reese seem to be just going for so many double overtakes, and Reese went for a triple overtake and it worked. Reese then obviously pinches the Porsche car on the exit there. Now Noah is going to fancy a run here at Nico Hulkenberg down in towards turn 4, and that's exactly what he does, and he is now up on into what would be P6, but Hulkenberg comes back at him and says, no, you're not having this position. I'm going to try and hold on to it, but Noah seems to have a much better line, and he can get in front of Hulkenberg, and finally, he's got his man. It just cost him a couple of positions in all of that, as we're now on board here with Daniel Ricciardo, who's trying to make a comeback in this Grand Prix. Ricciardo suffered front wing damage on the end of the first lap, and that was an embarrassing overtake. That was so easy for him then, and now his teammate Reese here is now attacking Charles Leclerc in the Audi car. So Leclerc's race is going from bad to worse as Reese now gets in front of Charles Leclerc. Leclerc, of course, leading this Grand Prix, had pole position, but the safety car and the strategy really ruining his ambitions here. So on board now with Lando Norris and George Russell. Russell now with the DRS here, going to go and get past Lando Norris very, very shortly as he now uses that DRS on the start-finish straight. Has a little fake towards the outside line, but he's going to commit to the inside line and towards turn 1. And down the inside goes George Russell. Norris, though, will try and pinch him on the apex off turn 2, but Russell says absolutely not, and he gets around him, and that's a very nice overtake then. Lap 20 of the Grand Prix. We're currently actually in the lead of the Bahrain Grand Prix, but we have not yet made our second stop in this Grand Prix, but we're going to, and we're going on to a set of the soft compound tyres. Remember, during the safety car periods, we stopped for a set of the medium compound tyres. We're now coming in for our set of soft compound tyres, which means we're going to be lightning fast in the final stint. Of course, if you're unaware of obviously my mod, which is making the cars extremely lightweight and just super fast, fresh tyres on this game, on my mod, sorry, and how it works is ridiculously powerful. You can be up to 3 seconds, maybe 4 seconds a lap faster than those that are on these type of medium compound tyres. So we should be rapid. That's the aim anyway. Let's see how it pays off though as we go on to the end of towards the end of lap 21. We set the fastest middle sector of the race so far on our out lap here, and now we're onto the back of Reese, who's currently sitting in 3rd place. So Leclerc got back past Reese again. I think it was in the pit stop phases as he got the undercut on Reese, but Reese now unfortunately won't be thinking about undercuts. He'll be thinking about a flying Ferrari coming towards him now, as we're going to go towards the outside line here and make the move on Reese. He's still got brilliant straight line speed in that McLaren, but we've got fantastic fresh red super soft tyres. It's not super soft tyres anymore, it's soft tyres, and we fly through now and on towards the next driver we go, which is Charles Leclerc. So let's see if we can try and catch the Audi car, even catch Sam, and try and claim our first win of this season. Lap 28 of this Grand Prix. We've only got 2 laps to go, and you can see my ERS is really low. I'll tell you what, it's so difficult to try and catch and pass these front runners because their straight line speed is absolutely insane. We should be getting an engine upgrade very soon, hopefully for the Canadian Grand Prix, but unfortunately, because we didn't have any engine power versus the top 2, I gave it everything I could, but unfortunately, it's not going to be enough. So it's going to be a close finish, but unfortunately, it's not going to be the finish that I wanted. Sam goes around the last corner. He's going to pick up his first win of Season 7. Charles Leclerc finishes in 2nd place. We come across the line to finish in 3rd, but at the end of the day, we go ahead and take those, considering we started 10th place and we benefited yet again from another safety car. You can see Sam beating Charles Leclerc by 9/10 of a second, and then it is myself 1.7 seconds back, Reese ending up 5.3 seconds behind. Sebastian Vettel managed to finish in P5 for Mercedes. That might actually be Mercedes' best result of the season, if I'm not mistaken. George Russell, P6 for Audi. Unfortunately, it was just a bad race for him. Nothing more to say about the matter. Same with Lando Norris, P7 in Jaguar. Lewis Hamilton finishes in 8th place for the Mercedes driver there. Daniel Ricciardo is 9th for the 2nd McLaren car. So despite actually taking front wing damage on the first lap and having to do a different strategy, he still managed to score points, but of course, it's obviously not what he wanted. And Valtteri Bottas scores points for Renault. That might be their first points of the season, actually, in P10, so credit to him. We did manage to set the fast lap of the race on a 1 minute 18.554, but we weren't able to capitalise and go any quicker. Looking at the second half of the table, Noah James finishes in P11 for Ford, ahead of the 2 Aston Martin drivers of Perez and De Vries. My teammate Sainz finishes in P14. He's still struggling a lot with the Ferrari. Also, you have to put into perspective that both times that he's been able to do an alternate one-stop strategy, which technically can be quicker, especially around China, we had a safety car right when the 2 stoppers needed to pit, so he's also had some bad luck in there as well. Pascal Wehrlein and Hulkenberg 15th and 16th ahead of Verstappen and Mason Wood, 17th and 18th. Gasly finishes in 19th place, which is no surprise after his front wing damage. And then Ocon is the only driver that DNF'd from today's Grand Prix. Taking a look then at the Drivers' Championship. So Sam leads the Formula 1 World Drivers' Championship on 58 points. He is now ahead of Charles Leclerc, who is on 49 points in the championship. Lando Norris dropped from 1st to 3rd. He is now on 43 points, with Reese on 41 points, remaining in P4 in the championship. We also remain P5 in the championship on 39 points. Daniel Ricciardo is 6th in the championship on 22 points, with George Russell on 16 points. Verstappen and Vettel are tied on 10 points in 8th and 9th, and Hamilton also climbs into the top 10 in the championship. He is on 7 points. The next event is the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Looking at the Constructors' Championship, then Jaguar increased their lead at the top of the Constructors' Championship with 101 points to their name. Audi are on 65 points. They've gone in front of McLaren now, who are on 63 points. Ferrari are on 39 points. Mercedes have gone in front of both Ford and Red Bull. They're now on 17 points as they try and look to catch up to us, potentially. Red Bull are on 10 points, with Ford on 9, and Renault have picked up their first point of the season, which means it's just Porsche and Aston Martin that are yet to score in the Formula 1 Championship so far. Let's go and have a look, though, at the post-race notebook and see how the teams and drivers reacted to the Bahrain Grand Prix. Sam managed to hold off Charles Leclerc and Tom to take his first victory of the season and managed to take the championship lead in the process. Charles Leclerc finished just under a second from Sam and did get DRS on the last lap, but it wasn't enough. Same for Tom, who on the fresh soft compound tyres couldn't make them work, as Tom blamed the Ferrari engine for only getting P3, as he says that Ferrari desperately needs to sort out the engine as soon as possible if they've got any chance of fighting the top 3 teams. Now, Sebastian Vettel was actually very happy to get onto the board with the points with Mercedes-Benz. Sebastian Vettel suffered in the first 2 races of the season with mechanical failures, which were expected considering the unreliability that they had during pre-season testing. But he is happy nonetheless that this time around he was able to have a clean race and crucially get into the top 5. Daniel Ricciardo was upset with his first lap incident, which cost him in the Grand Prix. The first lap incident meant that he damaged his front wing and had to box for repairs, meaning that he was on a very difficult fight back from the very beginning. And Charles Leclerc is now looking for answers from Audi after yet another pit lane problem cost them the opportunity to win the Bahrain Grand Prix. Under the safety car, there seemed to be some form of hold-up, which meant that Charles Leclerc lost out to Sam, Tom, and also Vettel in the pit stops, dropping him down the order. He then struggled to get his way through the traffic after pretty much losing his head. Reese managed to overtake him. He managed to get back past Reese and fended off the attack from Tom and closed in on Sam, but it wasn't enough, and what really should have been his first win for Audi once again has come undone. Audi continually wasting their opportunities to grab victories. They should have won the Australian Grand Prix, but they didn't make that work. Reese managed to fend off the attack after Leclerc lost out to Sam in the opening lap and then had to try and follow him for the whole first stint, then couldn't find his way past Reese. The second race, the safety car cost them as they went onto the soft compound tyres, whereas the others went a different way on strategy. And again today, another pit lane hold-up has cost them. But only time will tell if Audi can get back on track with the next race at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. See you next time.